Welcome back to Feelings Invested. I'm Giselle. Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection, like you've never felt anything like this before? And then, somewhere along the way, it becomes confusing. You start to question everything, telling yourself, this is too good to be true. The highs feel euphoric, but the lows, they cut deep. The connection feels magnetic, but it also feels exhausting. You feel like you're losing yourself, like you're too vulnerable, exposed, and you start to sabotage the relationship, asking yourself, is this love or am I just repeating a cycle? Today we're delving into the difference between a soulmate and a trauma bond, the illusion of meant to be, and why we confuse trauma bonds for soulmates. One of the most dangerous aspects of a trauma bond is that it can feel like destiny. It doesn't come in waving red flags. It comes wrapped in intensity, in passion, and that's what makes it so hard to spot. A trauma bond isn't just toxicity or an unhealthy relationship. It's about the way pain and chemistry intertwine, creating a connection that feels unbreakable. It's unresolved wounds, unmet needs, and deep-seated fears that create an attachment so strong, walking away feels like you're tearing a part of your own soul. Oftentimes, it's not real intimacy. It's resonance with survival mode, recognition of what's unhealed. You mistake their chaos for passion, their need for love. It's familiarity, familiar pain, familiar patterns, familiar validation, in just enough doses to keep you coming back. The worst part, if they don't take responsibility for their healing, they'll make you responsible for their suffering. For a long time, I didn't realize I was in a trauma bond, but not in the way you would expect. It was from my own lack of healing. My connection felt deep, intense, magnetic, and to everyone on the outside, it looked like love. People would see us together, romanticize what they observed. They would say things like, I want a relationship like yours, the way that he looks at you. That man adores you. We were the couple people rooted for, admired, even envied. But admiration doesn't equal alignment, and chemistry doesn't equal connection. Sometimes what we believe is love is simply familiar pain, dressed in charm and timing. What we mistake for chemistry can be chaos wearing confidence and speaking your emotional language. It's not always depth. Sometimes it's someone who studied you well enough to mirror what you long for, and you confuse that imitation for intimacy. It doesn't feel like a red flag. At first, it feels like alignment. In the beginning, it feels like they see you, like they understand the parts of you that you couldn't put into words, like you were bonded by something deeper, something you thought was rare. But over time, you realize they didn't understand you. They studied you, watched how you moved, how you thought, how you responded. They don't always connect with your soul. Sometimes they connect with your survival patterns. They read the blueprint of your trauma and mirrored what you craved: safety, presence, validation, until you confuse that reflection for love. It's not always love. People study the cracks your childhood left behind and fill them with just enough to feel irreplaceable, but only when it serves them. It's not intimacy. It's strategy. It's not depth. It's manipulation disguised as resonance. What you felt wasn't love. It was recognition from your traumas, emotional deja vu, familiar chaos that felt like chemistry. Your nervous system confused unpredictability with passion, but what you really experienced was being disarmed. And here's the thing, people wear the mask of everything that you need, but when that mask slips away, so does the illusion. Your partner can say and do all the right things, but if your intuition whispers something's off, even if you can't explain it, it's just something nudging at you. You can't be at peace. It's the quiet knowing that something's not right. And no matter how many moments you shared or how many memories you created, it will never truly feel right. It will be this undeniable feeling. Because love without safety isn't love. Understand, deception is an art. Some people don't need to lie with words. They lie with effort, with attention, with borrowed emotions they never truly felt. What's worse is uncommunicated expectations cause premeditated resentments. And let's be honest, most of us don't grow up with a healthy blueprint of love. We were taught survival and relationships they call dysfunction normal, through abandonment, through inconsistency, through pain. We're not taught how to navigate emotions to heal our wounds. So when we experience something intense, consuming, or a rush of emotions, it registers as love, when in reality, it's just trauma disguised as chemistry. Because love isn't supposed to feel like emotional warfare. It's not supposed to activate your survival instincts. It's supposed to feel safe, grounded, seen. And don't get me wrong, a healthy relationship is going to challenge you, but not in the same ways. Instead of exhaustion from sleepless nights, anxiety-ridden mornings, and not feeling good enough, you'll be challenged to be vulnerable, challenged to not sabotage the relationship, challenged to regulate your emotions and to show up, even when you're not in the mood. You'll still have fears, but you'll manage it with the right person and work through those fears together. Insecurities, traumas are not magically going to go away with the right person. They're just going to give you a safe space to work through it together. Understand, you're going to feel fear, insecurities, and carry those trust issues with every relationship. When you're with the right person, you can still feel all those emotions surfacing. It doesn't automatically mean you're with the wrong person. You were just never taught the skills to navigate emotions in a healthy way. If you're sitting in a situation where the person you're with is nice, but your needs are not being met, it doesn't mean they're a terrible person. It just means that you're not an energetic match. I don't think people realize energy goes both ways. It's not always about being submissive. There has to be vulnerability on both sides. Make no mistake, an unready person is always ready to hurt you, ready to lead you on, and ready to waste your time. They'll give you just enough to keep you guessing, enough to keep you hoping. But consistency, intentionality, emotional maturity, nowhere to be found. Stop attaching yourself to people who aren't showing up for you. If you're already noticing tendencies of low commitment, emotional unavailability, inconsistency, and a lack of presence, you feel they're not accessible or attuned to your needs. They lack engagement or responsiveness. That's not mystery. That's misalignment. There's no real interest. They're disengaged. And they're not busy. They're just not invested. The moment you have to question if it can work is the moment you already have your answer. Because deep down, you know it wasn't working. You know it wasn't enough. You know if it really had potential, you wouldn't have had to let it go in the first place. But when you're in that in-between stage when no one new has stepped in yet, the past looks good when the present is empty. Don't start replaying all the highlights and forget. Compatibility isn't about forcing a connection to survive your feelings. It's about recognizing when energy is not mutual and being bold enough to walk. Stop letting your emotions override your discernment. If you're uncertain in the relationship you're in right now, I want you to ask yourself these questions. You should have your answer. Small caveat, be honest. Number 1, do you have a strong satisfaction in your relationship right now? Or are you in love with their good side, their potential, or the idea of them? Number 2, do you feel safe with your partner? In other words, do you feel like you can express your true vulnerability to them? Number 3, do you feel respected, valued, and understood? Or are they too busy with life that you feel unfulfilled and lonely in the relationship? Number 4, are you optimistic about where the relationship is going? How much effort and work is your partner placing in the relationship? Number 5, would you want your child or future child to date someone like your partner? Ask yourself, are you in love, or were they energetic imbalances disguised as connection? Because there's a difference. Let's break it down in 4 easy ways to distinguish between a soulmate versus trauma bond. Number 1, safe versus addictive. A soulmate connection feels safe, stable, and grounding. There's no guessing game. You don't feel like you're constantly auditioning for affection. You can breathe. You can exist freely. Because real love doesn't keep you on edge. It appreciates you for exactly who you are. Because a soulmate isn't someone who completes you. It's someone who reflects the wholeness you already are. A trauma bond feels addictive, unpredictable, and emotionally consuming. It creates chaos and then calls that chaos passion. It tries to mold you into their perfect ideal. You're constantly trying to earn affection, win back attention, or decode mixed signals. And somehow, that intensity starts to feel like proof of love. But it's not love. It's a nervous system on high alert. Because a trauma bond doesn't fill your missing pieces. It mirrors the fractures you've been avoiding. Parts of you that are still broken, still hurting, still hoping to be loved. The parts you've been too busy, too afraid, or too conditioned to confront. Instead of healing, you meet someone whose energy taps directly into your unhealed wounds. Number 2, growth. Expansion versus constriction. A soulmate inspires growth. They celebrate your evolution. You're allowed to change. You're supported as you elevate. Real love is not threatened by your expansion. It wants you to evolve. Trauma bonds keep you small. It locks you in cycles of emotional highs and lows. You downplay your needs to avoid conflict. You censor your truth to keep the peace. Growth feels like a threat to the connection. Because the more you become yourself, the more obvious it becomes. They were never aligned with your highest self to begin with. Because a trauma bond doesn't nurture your soul. It mirrors the wounds you're still carrying. Number 3, communication. Clarity versus confusion. Soulmate connection invites clarity. You never have to guess where you stand. It allows honesty, vulnerability, and safety through communication. You can speak freely without walking on eggshells. There's transparency, presence, and emotional responsibility. Real love makes room for your voice and your feelings. Trauma bonds thrive on confusion. It's filled with miscommunication, fear, and emotional reactivity. The silence is loud. The arguments are circular. The apologies feel empty. You're left over-explaining yourself, apologizing for having needs, and wondering why nothing you say ever seems to be enough. It's not communication. It's control disguised as misunderstanding. Number 4, fear versus love. Soulmate love feels secure. It offers stability, not perfection, but consistency. It's open and honest, even in disagreement. You don't have to question whether you're loved. You don't have to earn their attention or beg for reassurance. You are chosen clearly, consistently, and freely. A trauma bond operates through fear. Fear of being too much. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if you speak up, you'll be punished. Fear that if you ask for more, the little that you have will be taken away. They play games, hide feelings, and manipulate to maintain the upper hand. It's love with conditions, and that's not love. That's emotional survival dressed as intimacy. At its core, real love liberates you. Trauma bonds imprison you. So do you feel safe? Or are you constantly questioning where you stand? Do you feel seen? Or are you overanalyzing text, tone, silence, wondering if you're too much or not enough? Be honest. Are you calling it love or just terrified of letting go? It's hard to admit when you know it's not real. You'll still romanticize the relationship. You cling on to what could be instead of accepting what is. Because deep down, you hope this person will redeem themselves. The version that had potential. The version that existed in glimpses but never stayed. You hope that they come around, that uncertainty will somehow turn into clarity. Never get satisfied with the bare minimum. You're not a banquet laid out for their consumption. Love isn't just words. It's action, consistency, and commitment. If they're doing the least, it's because they know you'll accept it. If you're in a relationship right now and feel you're treated less than you deserve, allowing popcorn affection, you think that person didn't know your lack of boundaries? You think they didn't notice you didn't have a backbone to pop in and out of your life at their leisure? Don't blame them. What you allow will continue. It's your responsibility to uphold your standard and be willing to walk away from anything that's draining you. It doesn't mean walk away when things get hard. No, that's fear of vulnerability. Don't confuse that with staying with someone who's hyper-focused on misunderstanding you. You're not here to heal their trauma, or vice versa. That's not what a relationship is. It's important to understand the role you want before jumping in. If you're having meaningless sex but want love, guess what? You're calling in that energy. You get what you give. It's an energetic exchange. Same thing, if you're chasing a partner for their money, their status, their lifestyle, you're not calling in abundance. You're calling in survival mode. Because when your motivation is rooted in scarcity, you don't attract stability. You attract transactions. And transactional love is always temporary. So when you find yourself wondering why you're attracting the same cycle, understand, energy calls energy. You attract what you're ready for, not what you wish for. Relationships shouldn't be built on how much you like them, or how persistent they were, or how pretty they looked under good lighting. For it to last, it has to be rooted in something real. Real vulnerability, real commitment, real communication, real trust and alignment, and real core values. Healing isn't easy. Choosing healthy love when you're used to survival isn't easy. But it'll be worth it. Here's the brutal truth. Most people would rather be right than be free. Being right is a poor man's version of self-worth. They'll tell themselves it was too good to be true, just to justify their fear. They'll sabotage the very thing they prayed for, just to protect their ego. Because to be truly loved, to be truly known, forces you to confront the parts of yourself you spent years avoiding. And for some people, that's a cost they're not willing to pay. So they make a judgment call, walk away from depth and stay loyal to their comfort zone. It's not always simple. It's not always malicious, but it is a choice. And the harsh reality is, some people would rather settle for the wrong kind of love than face the unhealed version of themselves. Trauma bonds don't always scream dysfunction. They don't always show up as chaos, yelling, ultimatums, or obvious betrayals. Sometimes they look like consistency with strings attached, kindness with conditions, stability that feels more like performance than presence. They're not toxic in obvious ways. They can be thoughtful, present, consistent, but even that comes with unspoken pressure. To hold it all together, to keep the connection from unraveling, to keep the illusion alive, to keep you emotionally invested. It's not about labeling someone a villain. It's about understanding that people love through the lens of their own unhealed trauma. They don't love from security. They love from survival. And survival mode doesn't seek to deepen the connection. It seeks to control outcomes. People run away from real love, not because it's wrong, but because it feels undeserved. They'll leave something healthy to return to something dysfunctional, simply because it's familiar. When masculine energy is wounded, it doesn't dominate to lead. It controls to survive. It manages outcomes, to avoid rejection, to keep the relationship safe. Enough to hold, but never enough to heal. When feminine energy is wounded, she doesn't walk away. She tries harder. She silences her intuition, downplays her needs, tries to earn love that was supposed to be freely given. Behind it all, no one feels seen. No one feels safe. No one knows how to say it out loud. One holds it together, one holds back, and both silently unravel. Eventually, the connection collapses under the weight of what was never real to begin with. No real vulnerability, no real intimacy, no real commitment. Because trauma bonds don't always appear how you expect. Sometimes the loudest betrayal is silence. Sometimes the deepest hurt is confusion. It's the slow, aching realization that what you thought was love was really survival wrapped in routine. Structured pain disguised as emotional availability. When you're in survival mode, even a little attention feels like a lifeline. Even inconsistency feels like connection. It doesn't feel wrong. It feels familiar. Because when love is rooted in survival, even emotional instability feels like home. Not volatile, just subtly off. Like walking through a beautiful house with a cracked foundation. You don't notice a shift until everything starts sinking. Still unsure? Ask your nervous system. Is your body calm around this person, or constantly bracing for the next emotional shift? Energy never lies. Here's a reminder. In relationships, in dating, in friendships, even in family, you must be willing to walk away from what you gave your best to, the energy you invested, the time you spent. Life is not always reciprocal, and attachment is not the same as alignment. Potential isn't partnership. Presence isn't performance. And routine isn't love. Choose better. I want you to challenge yourself this week. Get brutally honest with yourself. What does love actually look like for you now that you're no longer lying to yourself? Not the version you romanticize, not what you tolerated out of loneliness, fear, or status, and definitely not the kind of love that required you to keep performing just to be chosen. Stop settling for emotional illusions. This time, define love from conviction. Know exactly what you bring to the table and honor it, not with pride, with precision. Because when you move with clarity, you stop negotiating your worth for the sake of being chosen. You become the standard, not the exception. You don't need another reminder of what love isn't. You need to define, without hesitation, what love must be, and hold that standard without compromise. And when it's time to walk away from anything less, walk with conviction, no hesitation, no bargaining, no second guessing. Because when you trust yourself, you don't chase explanations, you move in your clarity. Here's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. Never attach yourself to someone who isn't healed. Not in love, not in friendship, not in business, not in anything. The broken don't give, they take. They'll drain you, burden you, pour their wounds onto you until you start mistaking their chaos for your own. They won't love you, they'll need you. And there's a difference. The unhealed will make you their safe space, their emotional crutch, their fixer. And once they've drained you dry, they'll walk away without a second thought. You'll be left picking up the pieces of a war that was never yours to fight. You are not a rehab. You are not a healing center. If they haven't done the work to heal, they have no business standing next to you. Take this time to release anything that no longer deserves your energy. It's time to develop yourself at a higher level, because trauma bonds start with the parts of you that remain unhealed. And who you attract reflects the work you've done or haven't done. Choose better, move differently, and never forget, you set the tone. Final reminder, there's no shortage of people who will match the maturity you're looking for, the dedication to grow, the humor that feels like home. Life is incredibly unique, but the quality of what you experience will always mirror the standard you enforce. It's okay to love someone. It's okay to miss someone. But it's also okay to have the wisdom to say, they're not my person. You're no longer explaining yourself to people who mishandled you. You're no longer feeling guilty for cutting access. You're no longer treating hope as a reason to stay connected. Seek higher quality relationships, people with emotional maturity, people who match your loyalty and depth, people who move how you move, with respect, with integrity, and with real presence. Not every deep connection is destiny. Sometimes it's just two wounds shaking hands. Because real love isn't found in fireworks, it's found in foundation. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Save it, revisit it. Let it be a reminder you come back to when your mind tries to fall back into old patterns or settles for less. I'll see you on the next episode. And remember, feelings are just visitors. Let them come, let them go. But you decide what stays. Until then, invest in yourself, in your healing, in your future, because you're worth it.